Okay, let's get this started, shall we there, folks? Welcome back to another 2 p.m. PST Twitch stream. I'm your host, Strange Road Jim, and today we're going to be getting back into some Pega studying, and then we got just chatting after that, while I upload videos to my YouTube channel, and then after that will be Dragon Age. So, let me go ahead and get screen to actually show up again. Who wants to show the current window? Oh well. Okay, so um, yesterday, not only did we finish off the module quiz fairly quickly, but we also finished up um, the challenge that was yesterday. So today we're going to be moving on to the next module, writing assignments to users. Um, now, you know, uh, I repeat this every time, for those of you that are, maybe you came to watch this video ahead of all the other previous Pega videos, or, maybe you're coming to my Twitch channel for the first time. Um, I want to let you know that I'm studying to get the System Architect certification. So, I'm not a instructor on this. I am not endorsed by Pega at all. So, um, so if you want to get an instructor-led training, then I would recommend that you do so. Uh, Hopefully, you get a better instructor than what I had. Um, but um, I move on. Um, so, I'm going to be working on trying to get, a certification for the system architect. Um, um, the system architect certification. Plus, um, what we're covering is also very, very related to the business architect. So if anybody wants to kind of follow along in the hopes of getting the business architect certification, then that is also a possibility. Okay, because a good chunk of the business architect is covered with the system architect. There's only two modules that this business architect has that the system architect doesn't. But the system architect has a lot more to itself than what the business does. Um, so there's going to be a slight deviation after the first two missions. So I may attempt to do um, the business architect, you know, do the last two modules for those of you that might be interested in the business architect certification, and then I'll go back to doing the system architect. Okay. I may just go ahead and try to take some of the questions, or I might try to get the business architect. I might try to take the business architect test that they give. Um, and who knows? Maybe I may try to get both the business certification and the system architect certification. You know, like back to back if I can. Um, because um, the my job search hasn't really gone very well, and you know my searching for the anything that's related to Pega, well, they want the certifications, and they have every right to ask for that because it's the basic um it's the basic requirement for it. So I mean, I get it, I understand. Um, so um, so I'm gonna be kind of working on you know, um, I'm going to be working towards those. Um, so just know, okay, I'm not an instructor. I'm trying to learn this, you know, not necessarily the first time, um, but like I said, my instructor wasn't all that great. Um, so there's going to be parts where I'm going to be kind of questioning what they're saying on these topics. Um, and, I just hope, if anybody from Pega, or maybe you are um, maybe you've already been certified in Pega before, maybe you have that, system architect certification, or the senior system architect, or lead architect. Um, then I ask you to maybe go back through some of my older videos, um, because there were some topics that I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how, you know, uh, they were using some keywords that I felt um, were very that were described very similar to each other. So I was having a hard time trying to make the distinction between them. So if someone can provide that commentary or assistance on helping me try to figure out what am I missing on that, then I would be greatly appreciative. And if you're making a comment on the videos, then that would also help. Anyone that is coming in that hasn't dealt with it before. Maybe they're kind of struggling with um, the topics as well. Maybe and it will help them out as well. So don't feel like it's just going to be focused on me. Because I'm posting these videos on YouTube. They could potentially help out another person. And if they help out another person, then fantastic. I would be happy on that. So, all right. So let's get into the writing work topic here. Okay. So, writing work. When there is more than one operator to complete work on a case, you define who performs the work on each assignment as you model a process. Careful and appropriate assignment routing design increases business efficiency because assignments go to individuals or groups of individuals most capable of completing a specific assignment. For example, when creating an expense report, an employee creates the report, the manager approves it, and payroll sends the money. Three roles, either an individual or a team, are working on the same case to fulfill their part of the assigned work. Check your knowledge with the following interaction. Interesting that they have the interaction like right here at the very beginning. But, alright, how does assigning routing improve efficiency? By assigning work to the most appropriate parties? Sure. By assigning work to a party in the appropriate time zone? Well, I mean, sure. That I mean, that could be, you might have multiple parties, and or you might have um you might be an international business, right? So you might have, like, if you're on tech support and you need tech support in, say, India, for example, and tech support here, to help out, both, both sides of the world. you know, um, you wouldn't necessarily want people, here in the States, for example, trying to stay up, basically do the night shift to help out, folks on the other side of the world, or vice versa, right? Maybe you do, you know, but I'm just saying, uh, assigning work to a party in the appropriate time zone might be, might be necessary too. So, I mean, that's not necessarily wrong by assigning work to the most senior party in the work group. No, no, not really. Because then you'd be assigning everything to the most senior party, and everybody that isn't the senior would be without work, right? So that's not efficient. By assigning the work to the currently available party. I mean, that's that's not necessarily true either, because if you have like multiple parties, like say you have employee party, manager party, and payroll party, for example, right? And if you want to assign the work to the payroll, but it's not currently available, you're not necessarily going to be sending it to the manager, right? So that doesn't really work. So technically, it's most likely this. But here's the thing: it should probably be also, you know, you know, the appropriate time zone might also be, effective as well. Um, because it's by assigning work to the party. Okay, but okay, so here's here's the key difference between the two. Okay, um that is once again, problematic, right? Um, if you have, say, manager and payroll in, opposite sides of the world, right? You have a manager in America and you have payroll in India, or vice versa, right? Um, and your works is like at the end of the shift here in the States, and it's when you really wanted it to go to the managers or something like that, but it's end the shift. There's no managers on the other side of the world, so you know this statement here is basically saying, hey, we gotta assign it, assign it to the party in the most appropriate time zone. Well, the most appropriate time zone would be, the people on the other side of the world, right? They're gonna be starting up their day. They can handle the assignments, so we hand it to payroll. But it's for managers. It's okay. That's where that particular problem is, because it's not the most appropriate party. So, um, now if it was like by assigning work to the most appropriate party in the appropriate time zone, then that would be better than this one. So, just saying. All right, running options. Well, time zone in terms of like maybe an international company. If you're if you're in the States, then I mean, sure, if you're only like one business in one time zone or something like that, then this is not really this doesn't really matter all that much. Okay. If you have multiple offices across the states, then okay, appropriate time zone, sure, that kind of matters a little bit, maybe. I mean, especially if you have, employees on different time zones, and sure, okay, makes sense, right? But I don't know. All right. Routing options. Current user. You route an assignment to the current user if the user who completed the preceding assignment needs to complete the current task. Specific user. A work list is a list of all open assignments in order of importance for a specific user. For example, an assignment that requires a maintenance manager to approve service request routes to the work list of the service maintenance manager. You route the assignment to a specific user if the individual user must complete the assignment. So, if you have a party that is, specific to maintenance manager, like maybe you have like multiple maintenance managers or something like that, and you know, you can assign, the work to the maintenance manager party, for example, and then, one of the maintenance managers is going to be looking at that going, oh, okay, well, we'll handle it here. But if you only have like one person, like, hey, you need to assign this to the CEO, it would be very odd to have a business with multiple CEOs. So, never have I heard of like a business that has like multiple different CEOs to it. The only thing that might might work on that, but again, it's like that doesn't really work either. Is when you have businesses that have like opened up branches in other parts of the world. So say like you have a business here in the States and you want to expand in say Japan, for example. Okay, just for the hell of it, just as an example, right? Um, well, you're gonna want to have someone that knows the culture and how to handle all the business dealings over in Japan. Um, so you're gonna want someone that is much like a CEO, but in Japan, for example, right? Now some people do like vice presidents or something along those lines, or um, like business managers in a region or something along those lines. You know, depending on what you look at. Um, but I think I could be wrong here. Let me look it up here real quick because um, let's see. Um, like Nintendo, for example. Um, they have obviously their head office in Japan, but they also have the main and the Nintendo of America, for example. I don't know. Um, Nintendo of America president. Okay, so that's what they, um, that's the president here uh, in the United States. So, um, hmm. Okay, so they kind of list them off as executive officers in Nintendo. So, President of Nintendo of America, President of Nintendo of Europe. Um, so, so yeah, it's not quite, CEO status kind of thing, but still, an executive officer, right? So, but even then, Nintendo of America president, for example, would have to, answer to his, seniors, for example, right? So, um, so that's why it's like, you know, um, typically, you always have that one person at the, top of the food chain that will, handle any like, major important business dealings, right? You know, they will make the final call depending on, where they kind of want to direct, you know, what they want to do. So, and if you have, work that needs to go to them for some reason, you know, then that would be considered like the specific user, right? Or, a job that typically has um, a, a position that only has like one person there, like President of America, for example. Okay. Only going to be like one person that fills in that particular role, so that's that specific user, right? So, all right, work queue. A work group identifies a cross-functional team that uses a work queue to distribute work. A work queue is a list of all open assignments in order of importance for a group of users. Assignments stay in the work queue until a user associated with the work queue selects an assignment or a manager sends an assignment in the work queue to a specific user. You create work groups to share resources across the business. For example, the following team contains members from different parts of the organization and in different roles. The shared user sees assignments in both work queues. Okay, so you have, um, the accounting with the work queue there, and their various users. And then you have onboarding with the work queue there with the manager and various users. So, um, Pega platform refers to work groups as teams and operators as team members, even though you didn't really specify operators prior. You mentioned work groups, but you didn't really mention operators here, Pega. Okay. You route to a work queue if anyone in the work group can complete the assignment. For example, you route an assignment to the payroll department work queue because anyone that belongs to the group can create and send payment to an employee. Business logic. You configure conditional routing by using business logic when you want to route work based on certain conditions. For example, in insurance underwriting, recreational vehicles, RVs, require special considerations. When prospective customers select "Are you insuring an RV?" checkbox, the RV underwriters work group or group work queue reviews the quote request. Otherwise, the quote request goes to the general underwriting group work queue. All right. So, um, you know, hopefully that's understandable to anybody. if you're looking at this for the first time, um, the idea is, um, you have a specific job that needs to be done by a very, like a niche group kind of thing. Like say, um, you're doing construction or something like that, and you have a work order that needs to be done by someone that just needs to wire networking cable throughout the house, right? Well, you don't necessarily want to be sending that to, say, like the plumber or something along those lines. You send it to a very specific group, to handle that kind of job request. Okay, so that they can go, they, put in the networking cable, and then they, their job is done, right? So, um, if you send it to the wrong group, they're gonna be like, and looking at that and going, "What the hell are you? Why are you sending it to me? I can't do this. It's like sending, um, electrician work to a plumber. I mean, unless that plumber knows, no, electrician work, they're probably gonna be looking at you and going, "Are you stupid or something? Get that shit out of there." That kind of thing. Um, so yeah, um, that's what business logic is dealing with here. You can also configure additional conditions for business logic routing. For example, quote requests for exotic cars such as the Bentley Arnage and the Lotus Esprit. I'm probably butchering those names. Require the approval of the vice president for exotic cars. I mean, all you have to do is just say quote request for exotic cars. Done. You don't need to, you know, you don't need to say, the specific cars or anything along those lines. What the hell are you doing here? This is like this is like Pega going, oh boy, I really love these kind of cars. I better put them in. Why? Why? You've already kind of said, hey, you're talking about exotic cars. Done. Get it out of there. You know, you don't need to provide examples of it. If anything, you can just do it right down here. You know, whatever. All right. Okay. One would hope that is mobile and car model are kind of um, opposite of each other, kind of thing. Like, if you pick one, then it basically cancels out the other. Unless, of course, um, there are exotic RV models out there, which I highly doubt. But crazy things have been happening more and more lately. Who knows? Maybe there is, you know, uh, maybe there is a Bentley RV out there somewhere. Who knows, man? Who knows? Um, if that's the case, then they're gonna have some difficulty with this, right? They might actually have to put in like a different like business logic to handle even that. So, in the following image, click the plus icons to learn more about each routing option. Okay, so you got the work queue here. Any underwriter in the standard underwriting group can review a request for the standard domestic car. You configure routing for standard underwriting to an underwriting work queue for anyone on the standard underwriting team to review. Okay. Work list. Wait, what is work list? Oh, okay. Work list is a list of all open assignments. Gotcha. Okay. I get you. Understandable on that one. Is that car insurance request require a review and approval of the vice president for exotic vehicles? You include the position of the vice president of exotics in the operator record associated with that role. You configure routing to the work list of the vice president for exotic cars by using the operator record of the vice president for exotic cars. I mean, they're putting a lot of examples in here, but they're not necessarily going back over what they kind of covered. I mean, they are, but they aren't. I don't know. They're giving more examples here than it's like, okay, well. And here's the business logic. Suppose the insurance company is very large with several teams of underwriters grouped by skill, workload, and product type. You can use any combination of criteria by using business logic routing. Okay, but you're not really explaining what business logic routing is in this image here. To learn more about each routing option, you're not really explaining the routing options in this. I mean, not really. Well, check your knowledge with the following interaction. Drag and drop the description to the correct routing option. A customer who submits an order online and must select a shipping option. A human resources manager who approves time off requests. And an employee in the benefits department who processes benefit changes. Okay. Um, okay. This would be current user because they need to select the shipping option after submitting the online order, right? Um, a human resources manager who approves time off requests. This seems like more of a specific user than anything else. Even though there might be like multiple resource managers out there, but especially if you have like multiple different buildings. But I mean, if you just have like one building, then specific user works for that. And then of course you got a work queue for benefits department, processing benefit changes. So that should all be correct. Yeah. Okay. Um, so that's it um, for writing work right at this moment in time. Obviously, remember work list, a list of all open assignments. I mean, specific user is easy enough to remember. Work group identifies the functional team, and work queue, you know, um, is um, in a sense, um, you can send the open assignments from the work list into the work queue. Um, and obviously, you can kind of maybe see the full work list as well. So, you're not like, um, where's this particular assignment at? Oh, it's in that particular work queue, or maybe something along those lines. You know, maybe um, maybe when you're done with like accounting and it needs to go to onboarding afterwards, you know, like you're done with the accounting, so you remove it from the work queue. It gets put into the work list, and then it gets distributed back into the onboarding work queue or something along those lines. Most likely, something that you have to kind of deal with, with business logic, but just just a heads up. Okay, we got like 20 minutes left, so I'm having fun on just kind of moving on to the module quiz at this point. That really didn't feel like 15 minutes. Normally my 15 minutes takes up the entire hour, but then again, my confusion might have kind of added to that too. So let's go on to the module quiz. I mean, we got time. It says 10 minutes. I got 20, and it's supposedly only about the routing assignments for users. There's 3 questions, so it doesn't seem like I'm gonna have that much difficulty on this one. So drag the term below to the best to best complete the scenario. A senior engineer approves application updates that are specific to mobile deployments. Anyone on the engineering team can approve other application updates. Approval assignments for the senior engineer are routed to the user's work. Uh, oh no, no. This would be to the user's work list, and other approval assignments route to the team's work queue. Yeah, because um, the work queue goes for like everybody on that team, right? They're they're all kind of looking at that work queue going, okay, is there an assignment in there that I can work on? Okay, I'm going to grab it. I'm going to put it into my personal work list so that I can work on it, you know, I can work on that particular assignment, you know. So, yeah. Home loan company has home approval offices in various regions. Each office has a work queue. The company requires you to assign appraisals to offices based on the home location. For example, home appraisals for Boston are assigned to the New England office work queue. Which routing approach supports this requirement? Route the assignment based on appraiser skills? No. Route the assignment based on the appraiser role? No. Route the assignment to the current work queue based on business logic? Okay, sure. It is not possible to support this requirement. The router must define a specific work queue. Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, the third one should work. Um, you just need to handle the business logic of it in order to get it to the right work queue. So that should be correct. Yeah. Of course, you're going to need to make sure that your um, the assigning the appraisals, has that location based in there, so it'll go, oh, okay, your appraisal is coming from this particular office, so therefore it has to go into this, you know, uh, regional queue. So, now, you know, they might have, uh, they might be like, hey, your office is so large that maybe you just want to kind of keep it in Boston or something like that. Maybe you have a lot of work already in Boston, so you just kind of keep it in Boston. Who knows? But obviously that's, like I said, that's handled by business logic. So all right. Expense report processes require you to route travel expense assignments to a specific auditor. auditors are members of the auditing workgroup. How do you route the assignment to a specific user? Okay. Um, hmm. Expense report processes require you to route travel expense assignments to a specific auditor. Oh, okay. Um, you don't you don't send it to a work queue because that doesn't, you know, um, that basically gets worked on by anyone in the work group, right? You could assign it to the user's work group, but then anyone in the work group could try to work on it, right? So um, someone else could, some other auditor can come in, try to take the work and try to work on it themselves, right? So that's not necessarily a specific auditor. Um, you can try to route the assignment to the user, or you can try to route the assignment to the user's manager and then have them decide, you know, the, you know, do we, does the, is the auditor like overworked maybe, to send it on to, send it into the auditing work group. I would, I would imagine that it's the user's manager here because these next two are allowing for others to kind of step in and take that specific user's potential work, right? So both of these don't really work for that. You could route it to the user, but it depends on how much work the user is kind of dealing with. So I would imagine that it should be to the user's manager, but I don't know how. I don't know what they're gonna do on this. So I'm gonna check this one first. Yeah. Assignment appears in the manager's work list and not the user's work list. Well, that's true, but the manager can pass it on to the user. Okay. Like I said, if the user is overworked, if they already have like hey, you have a user that it's just having work getting piled on them, you know, 10 assignments, 15 assignments, 20 assignments and stuff like that, and they're like going, I have too much work. What are they gonna do? It's the work is in their work list, right? They would have to basically go to the manager and go, hey, I got too much work. Okay. The manager's job is meant to kind of delegate, to figure out like, hey, this guy's getting overworked. I shouldn't be sending any more assignments to them, um, so they're saying no on that. Okay. So obviously, it has to be the assignment to the user. So okay. So that's how they wanted to view that. Okay. Um, personally, I find that very. Uh, I don't find that as good business, really, to be honest. But then, I say that, but then again, I often struggle with, staying with the job anyway. So maybe who knows what I know. You would think that it should go to managers, list first, and then the manager hands out the work. Okay. You know, sure, if that user is like the only person that can handle that kind of work, then okay. But like I said, if that user is getting like overworked, if they're getting hit with a lot of workload, then they're just gonna get stressed out. They're gonna and you know the manager's gonna be like looking at them and going, why aren't you done with these particular assignments or something along those lines, right? Because they wouldn't know. They can't. They might not know what that user's work list is consisting of. I mean, unless they're granted access to view all their workers' work lists. I mean, that's possible. Um, or at least I hope it is possible. Should be possible. Um, but um, in my particular opinion, which according to them is wrong, it should go to the manager first. Okay, let the manager make that determination first. Like, hey, um, you know, I see that your work list, you already have 20 assignments. I'm going to hand it over to this other auditor, you know, because we've been training this particular auditor to, help you out with your workload. You give him some support in getting it done. Or maybe that particular work is priority. Like, hey, this needs to be done by tomorrow or something like that, right? You know, auditor, you know, special auditor, you need to work on this right now. Stop everything else that you're working on. Get this done immediately. This has high priority in your work list now. That kind of thing. They can talk with their worker along those lines. Okay, you just hand it to the worker, and you know, you're what's the manager for then? you know. All right. All right. Well, um that's it for this module, I guess. Um, that was a fairly quick one overall. Now, um, we only have like 10 more minutes left, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to the next topic module. Maybe it's a challenge. It is a challenge. Okay. We're going to save that for tomorrow. Okay. I'm not going to be able to. Um, I feel like I'm probably going to be dealing with quite a bit here. A lot of steps, and like, yeah, this does not feel like a simple 10-minute because there's going to be a lot of um, confirmations that I'm going to need to kind of do and look at and stuff like that. So we're gonna save this for tomorrow. Um, and we'll knock that out of the way, and then we'll move on to designing an approval process. We're getting closer to the low code app builder mission test. So um, now we also have the mission exercise here as well. Okay, they estimate it to be 2-hour exercise. Okay, so this might take, well, it might take more than 2 hours. Okay, I'll see what I can do about maybe trying to, well, I don't know. This might be, yeah, this is an instance. Okay. In order for me to get through all this, um, it might be I might need to kind of, like cut into my just chatting and um, gameplay in order to go through everything that they're doing here um, to complete everything. Okay, because um, each one kind of builds upon themselves. Um, so I don't know if I can, I'm not sure if I can go through each one of these exercises, you know, like, this, um, I don't know if I can do the balance transfer case lifecycle, for example, get that all done, you know, uh, complete the mission exercise, and then move on to um, the exercise two in a new instance, if you get what I'm saying. Like if I do exercise one, like complete exercise, all part of exercise one there, and then I close on out, I close the instance out, then everything that I've done in mission one is going to disappear. It's going to just go bye bye. Okay, it won't save it, right? So, um, if part two, requires information from part one, which I highly, I'm I'm quite sure is the case, then I'm probably going to need to do, all nine of these, you know, all in one session. So that will mean that I'm going to need to, take that 2 hours to do all this. So that'll mean, basically an extra long Pega session. So be prepared for that. Okay. Um, I may have to like push back um, the just chatting and gaming sessions on those days. But obviously, we'll get to that when we get to it. But you know, it's coming up. It's coming up. You know, um, we have one, two, three more challenges and two more modules. So at this pace, um, I could, uh, writing work to users is probably going to be tomorrow's. This module and this challenge here looks to be fairly short, so this might be the next day. So this is Tuesday, and this is Wednesday. Um, this might be Thursday and Friday. This might be Saturday, and this might be Sunday, given, what I'm, you know, uh, seeing that today is Monday. So, and then we try the low code app builder. I had to get a passing score of 80%, to basically complete the test. If I don't, this has a very similar style to the certification. It's not going to be the exact same. Obviously, it's not going to have the same exact questions or anything along those lines, but it's going to be very similar to their certification. You go in, you answer a question, and you don't get feedback on it. You go to if you go to the module quiz, it gives you the feedback button, right? You're not going to get that from um, the end of the mission quiz. So don't expect that. Okay. Think of this as, what you would most likely be experiencing on the certification test itself. Um, this gives me 40 minutes to pass it. If I don't pass it, um, well, okay. When I failed the certification test, they gave me basically a listing of all the subject areas that I was kind of struggling with. Now, I didn't really like the listing that they gave because they weren't like specifying like specific modules or specific missions that I was struggling with, or that, hey, this question is based off of, you know, um, the data module. Okay, they didn't really say that, in their uh, breakdown of, percentages of what I got right and what I got wrong. Okay, they didn't do that, which is kind of irritating because, basically they say, hey, you're struggling in case management or something like that. Like, you only got like 50% in case management. And it's like, okay, well, you know, we're in case management. What, where in all this did I fail? And, what was I kind of struggling with? That kind of thing. So, um, and you might get the exact same thing with the low code app builder. Okay. Um, it might not even tell you which module that you had issues with. So, um, maybe, well, okay. Um, Certification is going to have very specific guidelines on taking the certification exam. Okay. Um, they want like very clear area on where you study, on where you're taking the exam. Okay. They don't want anyone to like, be handing you answers off to the right or something like that. They want you, if you're taking this online, they want like pictures of your entire work area, you know. Like if you're taking it on the computer, they want to, one, they want it like completely clear. No, nothing that might potentially show that you are, grabbing something and cheating off of it. Okay. Like if you have like post-it notes on your screen or something like that, they're gonna be like, yep, nope, that kind of thing. Um, so just bear that in mind because, they're, if you're doing a certification exam online, then there's someone gonna be like watching you to make sure that um, you're not like trying to cheat. I mean, it's a live web camera, but it's they don't have like, they don't set up like multiple cameras on you to kind of check on everything. Okay. So they're very they have to be very careful, on how your setup is. Okay. You know, prior prior to the pandemic, they had certification exams in, various cities kind of thing. That he had to kind of go to a a testing site to, take care of it there. And obviously that's going to be a lot harder for anybody like if you're like watching this and you're like, hey, I live in, a very small town and I wanted to kind of like maybe move to a big city or, learn Pega so that I can develop, at home in my small city or something like that, then, you know, trying to take a test in, you know, Chicago or New York or something like that might be pretty difficult, right? So, um, but I mean, they have to basically ensure that your workspace is like completely clear. So, so just kind of bear that in mind. Okay, if you're going to be taking the certification exam online, or at least in the past when I took it, um, they're going to want a picture of your current, you know, exam area. And if it's not like completely clean or clear or anything along those lines, then they're going to say no. Sorry, there's, your, you know, um, your area is too cluttered for taking the exam or something like that. You know, if you say you have, if you have like a cup, like, on your desk or something like that, they might look at it and go, well, if you can turn that cup around and, there's some answers or something like that. There's a whole lot of little cheat notes or something like that there, right? So, um, so just kind of bear that in mind. They're pretty restrictive on, um, where you can take your test. Okay, so so when you are ready for that certification exam, you're gonna want to have a place that you can kind of go to that is fairly clear for the most part. Now I know that might be really difficult in um, certain areas kind of thing. Like, you might not have um, maybe your living situation or something like that isn't necessarily ideal. Okay, like maybe your house is just cluttered. Okay, uh, you know, um, don't worry. I've seen it before. So, hell, I got clutter myself. Okay, but um, if that's the case, then see if maybe you have like a friend that you can like take the exam at. Go to their particular house, clear out their office or something like that. Maybe they have an office that you can kind of go to. It's like completely clean and clear and stuff like that, and you can just kind of take the test there or something. That's an option. You know, I'm just throwing out, you know, things for you to maybe consider. You have to kind of be careful with trying to take the exam in, say, like restaurants or like a Starbucks or a library or something like that, because there's a lot of people in the background and they might not want that. Okay, they have very specific guidelines for taking the test. Okay, and if there's any hint whatsoever of you cheating on the certification exam, then they null it. They null and void that attempt, and you might lose that money that you spend on trying to take the exam. Okay. They give you very specific guidelines as to, what you need to do to take the exam. And if you don't meet them, if you don't handle everything in that listing, then they're um, the person that is, in charge of um, overseeing your test taking, they're gonna say, sorry, you don't meet the requirements of taking this test online. So now, I don't know what would happen after that. Like, hey, you didn't meet the requirements, so we're canceling your test. What happens after that? I don't know. Okay. When I took the test, my area was clear, so I didn't really have any problems per se, in my testing area. Okay, I made sure to kind of follow everything that they wanted me to do. Um, but if you don't follow it, I don't know what would happen. Okay, they will most likely cancel your testing. Would they reschedule? Maybe. They might say, hey, you didn't meet the requirements of this. We're going to reschedule it for another day. You're going to have to, you know, find a better place to take this exam, or you're going to have to clean up your area to handle this, right? They could do that, or they can basically say you basically you basically um, your contract in taking this test um, was violated, so therefore you automatically failed the certification, and therefore, you know, you're it's done. You don't have any other attempts after this. You failed it. We're moving on. That kind of thing. So it could be, like, hey, um, you just spent like $200 for a failed attempt. And believe me, that's for me, that's a lot of money. you know, don't necessarily want to be spending like $200 on a failed attempt and not have like another possible attempt. So don't let that happen to you. you know. All right. Um, but yeah, that's gonna be it for now. Um, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our just chatting and uploading videos. Um, so um, for those of you that are watching on Twitch right now, hang tight. Um, I'll, let me go through the little ending here, which, if anybody's watching this on YouTube, um, do the normal YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, share, bell notification, so on and so forth. That that's always helpful. So, um, you know, um, if you have any kind of questions, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Um, if it's something that I can't answer, then I'll state as such. Um, because like I said, I'm not a Pega instructor. Um, but we're going to keep on working towards that certification. So hopefully you'll continue to join me on this and go through modules and challenges, and yeah, that's going to be it. So um, thank you very much for watching, for those of you on YouTube, and I'll catch you in the next video. And go ahead and stop the recording right now.